Tenants from across Brooklyn gathered outside what the city called its first ever rental ripoff hearings, an initiative launched by Mayor Mamdani's office. For many residents, this moment wasn't just about policy. It was about years, even decades of frustration with landlords they say have ignored basic responsibilities and allowed living conditions to deteriorate. Some of those tenants argue that the worst landlord they've had to deal with isn't even private, it's the city itself. As the mayor pushes forward with a campaign against negligent property owners, the situation is beginning to turn back on him, with renters showing up angry, demanding accountability, and questioning whether they've been misled. For people like Keisha Cruz, the frustration has been building for nearly 2 decades. She describes 17 years of recurring problems, from poor maintenance to unbearable living conditions. The emotional toll is evident as she explains how coming home has become something she dreads rather than finds comfort in. Neighbors echo similar concerns, with some claiming they've gone without heat since Thanksgiving. In a city where winters can be brutal, that kind of neglect isn't just inconvenient, it's dangerous. For many, it raises serious questions about how such conditions have been allowed to persist for so long. The hearings themselves drew long lines before the doors even opened, fueled by the mayor's promise to freeze rent and crack down on bad landlords. On paper, the initiative sounds like a step toward justice, but critics argue that it only addresses part of the problem while ignoring deeper systemic failures. Data paints a troubling picture. On average, it reportedly takes the housing authority around 370 days to complete repairs. That means a tenant could wait an entire year or longer just to have a basic issue resolved. For residents, that delay isn't just inefficient, it's unacceptable. While the city considers raising taxes on higher earners to fund its housing agenda, critics point out a deeper issue. The public housing system itself is already overwhelmed. Complaints about broken elevators, mold, lack of heat, and even collapsing ceilings have existed long before the current administration took office. What concerns many observers is the mayor's plan to take over poorly managed private buildings and add them to the city's existing portfolio. If the city is already struggling to maintain its current properties, expanding that responsibility could make its already fragile system even worse. This may explain why residents from city-run housing developments were not prominently included in these hearings. If those tenants were given the same platform, they might expose conditions that are even more severe than those found in privately owned buildings, something that could undermine the city's broader housing strategy. For some, this reflects a larger ideological debate. Supporters of government-run housing argue it protects tenants from exploitation, while critics claim it often leads to inefficiency, underfunding, and long-term neglect. Around the world, similar systems have faced challenges in maintaining quality and sustainability. Meanwhile, tenants in privately owned buildings continue to voice their own struggles. Issues like unreliable hot water, broken elevators, and pest infestations are common complaints. Yet in some cases, these buildings still appear to be in better condition than those operated by the city. Residents living in public housing describe even harsher realities. Some rely on space heaters to stay warm, while others bundle up indoors as if they were outside. These conditions not only affect comfort, but also pose serious health risks, especially for children and the elderly. At the same time, thousands of public housing units sit vacant, even as waiting lists stretch into the hundreds of thousands. Families remain crammed into small spaces for years, hoping for transfers that rarely come. The gap between supply and demand continues to widen. Critics argue that the root of the problem lies in economics. Rent regulations, rising maintenance costs, and operational expenses have made it difficult for landlords to sustain their properties. When revenue doesn't match costs, maintenance is often delayed, leading to the very conditions tenants complain about. City officials acknowledge the challenges, pointing to staffing shortages and limited resources as key obstacles, but for tenants waiting months or years for basic repairs, those explanations offer little comfort. The lived reality remains one of uncertainty and neglect. In the end, the debate over housing in New York City reveals a complex and deeply entrenched crisis. Whether the solution lies in stricter regulation, increased funding, private sector reform, or a combination of all three, one thing is clear. Without meaningful change, tenants on all sides will continue to bear the burden.